Recording in progress. Here we go. I'm going to open up the chat bar on the side. Hi, Laura. If you can just let me know, I've just typed in hello in the right-hand side chat bar. You know, sometimes with Zoom, it is a bit confusing because you have like a Q&A box that's at the bottom and then you have a chat bar. I always use the chat bar. So don't put your stuff into the Q&A box at the bottom. Just head your eyes over to the right or wherever it shows up for you. And if you could just say hello, hi, let me know where you are coming from. That would be amazing. I'm going to give it another couple of minutes. We have almost 1,000 people registered for this webinar today. I know a lot. It's 12 p.m. where I am, Pacific time, but it's all different times where different people are. So we record everything. We will send it on out. I'll chat about that when I do a little bit of housekeeping in the beginning. Oakville, Niagara, Saskatchewan, Kettleby, Edmonton, Boise, Idaho. Happy Thanksgiving, Saskatchewan. Hi, Judy and Jessica, BC, Stouffville, Palm Springs, California, Cranbrook, Nova Scotia. So we are covering from the West Coast to the East Coast and down into the States as well. New Zealand, Australia, amazing. Athena from tiny Ontario. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Seattle, Washington. Amazing. So yes, happy Thanksgiving to all of our Americans that are joining us today. Might even be some of you who are living on Canadian soil, but are actually American, or it could be those of you who just want to have a feast today and celebrate in spirit. Awesome. Okay. So as we are giving it a couple more minutes here, a couple of things to think about for yourself. You definitely want to have pen and paper nearby. Now, depending on when you registered for this, you possibly got the workbook. There's a 16-page workbook that I created for this. Really, it's your Coles notes, okay? So it's your opportunity to, I gathered quite a bit of information. I'm going to teach to you today in a way where I'm going to pull from what it is you have in the workbook. If you haven't got it yet, don't stress out. We're going to resend it when we send you the recording. It takes us about 48 hours to flip the recording out. And if for some reason it just doesn't arrive in your inbox, not right now, but when 48 hours is up, just message my team info@jenpike.com, and then we will make sure that you get it. It's in a PDF. And I'll just share my screen for a moment here and kind of show you so you know what it looks like. But this is it. And I've really just encapsulated a lot of the main things that we're going to be going through. And like I said, I'm going to teach it to you from this aspect of pulling from this and then extrapolate and expand. And we've included notes for you in here, all about the adrenals, thyroid. It is 16 pages long. Really, it's about 8 pages of like core information, and then you can take it and go from there. I do not teach PowerPoint webinars. I just don't. I want to have conversations with you, and I'm going to teach you in a way where if you were here in my home and we were doing this live and in person, I'm going to try to connect with you. I'm going to teach this in a way where you understand it based on stories, analogies, and really your own body, the symptoms that you have felt, you might be feeling right now that potentially might come down the road that you need to understand. I'm going to talk to you about different testing options, things to ask your primary care practitioners, the things that you need to pay attention to and really respond to in your own body. I'm going to talk about a lot of different things. I do not have a hard end time. I will tell you with adrenal and thyroid, I could keep y'all here for a week to go into all of this. I'm going to do my best to move through this in the next 60 to 75 minutes. But if you have like a hard stop where in your head, you're like, my brain is available for 60 minutes and you have to hop off, all good. But I would say to stay to the end because I'm like just getting started. And we haven't even begun. Now, I do have a little bit of housekeeping that I want to go through. So first of all, tech-wise, if Wi-Fi stops, if my face freezes, if something happens, don't panic, leave, come back. If that doesn't fix it, if I lose Wi-Fi for some reason and I can't come back on, like we just will figure it out, okay? So don't stress and worry about that. I have a dog. She's fairly quiet. She's on the bed over there. Someone comes to the door, she's going to bark. That's going to happen. I tried to ask her not to. She's not going to listen to me. In the workbook that we sent you, if you notice that there's anything that is not spelled correctly, that there is a grammatical error, feel free to ignore that. You don't need to let us know. This is like, if you are the grammar police and the spelling police, this could be one of the reasons your adrenals are fried and your thyroid is suffering. We don't sweat the small stuff over here. So just feel free to correct it yourself on the piece of paper and then just move right along. I am also recording this as a podcast. So I'm going to take this video, which you're going to get the recording of, and then I'm going to take all the audio from it. So you'll have two options of how you can listen to this again, because you will definitely need to listen again. You'll have video option, and then you will have podcast option. So that'll come out, the podcast, next week or the week after, but you'll have that video one to be able to go back to and to listen to and to read from and connect with. So my intention today, moving into this, is to have you walk away with a much deeper understanding of the relationship between your two adrenal glands and your one thyroid gland, the hormones they are responsible for, how they interact with everything else in your system, how they interact with supporting your mood, your sleep, your energy, your blood sugar, your weight, your hormones, your cycle, supporting you for perimenopause and menopause, mentally, emotionally. These two areas of our body, they are massively connected to our whole body. And I think that that is where a lot of us can kind of go sideways, is that we buy into this notion or this idea that everything is compartmentalized and everything is separate. Like you only suffer from headaches, you only suffer from heart palpitations, you only suffer from gas and bloating. Like I'm in my 24th year of practice now. I've never worked with someone who only has one issue. On the surface, you might be telling yourself that because it could be the thing that is causing you the most, struggle or angst or whatever it may be. But the reality is, when you start to learn more and we start to ask more questions and go below the surface, you start to realize there's maybe a little bit more going on. You also start to understand how long things have been going on for, and possibly what some of the triggers are. I'm also going to talk to you about the fact that there are certain tests you can ask for. There are certain tests your primary care provider may say, no, I'm not going to run that. I'm going to talk about why that happens. I'm going to talk about how you can circumvent the system. And then what do you do once you actually have results? A lot of you wrote in saying your reason for coming here today is because you want to get off medication. And I'm really lovingly going to ask you to just not lead with that as your main goal. Because if you are somebody that is on thyroid medication, that actually might be saving your life right now. That actually may be the thing that is holding it together for your body and for your system. And there is a place for certain medications, depending on what's going on in our body at certain times. And so I don't want you listening today and taking some of the notes and suggestions I'm giving you and being like, that's it, I'm just going to take myself off cold turkey. I'm going to wean myself off. I want to get off this medication. You need to understand why you've been given the medication, the role that it's playing in your body. And I know for a lot of you, you've not been taught by your endocrinologist. You've definitely not been taught by your family doctor why and what is going on. And I hope today by the end of this, you'll have a little bit more knowledge so you feel more empowered about the decisions and choices you're going to make. Have I worked with clients, and do we, in our practice, who are able to successfully wean off thyroid medication? Yes. Do we work with women who are able to shift from taking, a synthetic form to a naturally desiccated? Yes. But really what I'm interested in is teaching you how to take care of the rest of your body, so that if you have to stay on this medication long-term or for life, which is oftentimes the case with thyroid medication, that the rest of your body is healthy enough to actually use the purpose of the medication. And I'm going to explain to you what that means specifically in regards to Synthroid and levothyroxine, and if you are on a specific straight T4 medication. So I just wanted to put that out there in the beginning. I also really want to ask you that if you are committed to getting the most out of this workshop today, that you are present. And what I mean by that is you are not simultaneously listening to me and scrolling on your phone. You are not, and listen, like I'm not talking like your child needs you need to put them down and say like, you got to just figure life out for the next 75 minutes while I learn. I mean the things that distract you. So put your phone down. If you have another monitor opened up, if the TV's on in the background, if you actually made the conscious decision to sign up and to show up today, be present for yourself. It's not about it for me. I can't see you right now. I have no idea what you're doing, if you have clothes on or any of the things. But I'm just saying, if you are struggling, one of the reasons maybe why is you only have your foot half in the door. So let's open the door wide open today and fully step in. Okay. I would love to know, before I start to dive into this, what brought you here today? Okay. Just like can be one little word in the chat bar. Why are you here today? What do you want to learn? What is the struggle that is going on? If some of you can just answer that for me in the chat bar, because I can talk about a lot of things for a long time. I want to make sure I'm steering this in the right direction. So if you could start to put your response for me in the chat bar. Are you exhausted? Are you not sleeping? Are you having a lot of inflammation? Are you struggling with your weight? Are you losing your hair? Do you just feel fatigued all the time? Do you have no libido? Are your periods all over the place? Are you feel like you've never been the same since you've had a baby? I'm in menopause and I feel like garbage. Thank you for your honesty. Awareness to help patients better. Oh, awesome, Jennifer. Adrenal fatigue. I'm losing hair, all of the above. Losing hair post having COVID. Very common, right? It rocks the immune system. Any virus does. Inflammation and weight gain, burnout, hair loss, eyebrow loss, perimenopausal, all kinds of issues. I don't have full confidence in the medical community I'm working with. They're all about shoving a pill. I understand that. Exhausted, menopause, struggling with weight loss and hair loss. To better support clients, I'm always learning. Awesome. Welcome, Chantel. You are joining me in the Audacious Woman Zoom. Overweight. I'm waking in the night. I've got some inflammation. I'm in menopause. My body isn't reacting like it did before. Hair loss, waking up in the middle of the night, don't feel rested, inflammation, bloating in the abdomen. I'm bloated all day. I'm using T3. Have had hypothyroidism for 50 years. I am 60 now. Menopause is happening. Welcome, Teresa. Insomnia, I've recently been told I have cervical polyps from a recent normal pap. I have no symptoms. Feeling fatigue and all of the above. Chronic fatigue, insomnia, digestive issues, fatigue all day, can't fall asleep. I need HPA axis support, inconsistent sleep, and menopause. Do you notice a theme? No one's getting sleep. Everyone's feeling puffy. There's a lot of fatigue happening, right? So you're not alone. If you thought you're the only woman that's feeling the way you're feeling, you're not alone. Another one, inflammation, tired, overwhelmed, right? And issues with weight. Okay. Thank you all so much for typing that in there and for being honest and for sharing. I really appreciate it. And anytime that you come into a workshop that I'm hosting or anything, I always ask, recognize as a woman, the ambassador that you are and the role model that you are being for the other women around you. The more we allow ourselves to share and to actually participate in the conversation, we're going to break down a lot of the barriers and a lot of the loneliness that women have. My THP coach explains thyroid is great, but adrenals are a mess. All right, Lisa. So maybe we can teach you a little bit more info today. DHEA, I have been on it for some time, wondering if there's long-term effects. Allison, are you from the US? I was curious about that. My emotions are all over. No, you're in Canada. Okay. Interesting. DHEA is not a common one that's prescribed in Canada for that. Another question, actually, before we get into this, how many of you have had a proper full blood panel done before or have had a Dutch test done or functional test? How many of you have had like full panel, not just your basic OHIP has covered it or your, health insurance company has covered it, but I mean full, like you've had the full gamut. Let me know in the chat. I'm really interested. Never, no. Dutch, yes, no. Dutch and full panel, I did. Yeah, Renee, the 350, that's a bargain. We have to, and this I'm going to talk about today, like no one is going to pay for these things for us. Our healthcare will never cover the full thyroid panel, definitely not on a yearly basis. Your doctors aren't trained in a Dutch. They don't understand any of this. Your endocrinologist won't support you on it. These are the things that we actually do have to pay out of pocket. And we're so miseducated on that and taught that like, no, this should just be covered. We're going to go into that a little bit. No, never. Sienna, you've had all of it done. Awesome. No, recently had full testing, including Lyme to explain strange symptoms. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Beautiful. Free T4 and free T3, they are part of the full panel. Yeah, I'm actually going to, and I have it written in the workbook, I'm going to talk to you about what that whole full thyroid panel actually is in regards to getting like a CBC panel done when you go and how often and those types of things. I'm going to talk ranges as well too. So buckle up. I hope you have hydration and that your blood sugar is nice and stable right now. So if you've never done a workshop with me, this is how I flow. I am going to teach for a period of time, and then I'm going to pull it back into the chats and say, do you have any questions? Does that make sense? Please do me a favor. Don't load up the questions as I'm talking about certain things because it will just keep moving higher and higher up. and I'm not going to see it. So when I get to that time where I come in and I say, okay, let's jam on this a little bit, that's when I'll open it up. I do have one of my team members, Amanda, that is going to help me. If there's something I say that needs like a link for it or a product I talk about, or I don't know, whatever it is, Amanda is there listening and she will pop it in there for you. Okay. Are you ready to go? It's a real question. I need a sip of water. Yes. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Let's do it, Darlene. That's right. Let's do it. Okay. So here we go. Let's first break down. So I'm going to start teaching you about your adrenals, and then I'm going to teach you about your thyroid, and then we're going to pull this together. I'm also going to be talking about like the connection to your gut, to your estrogen, these types of things. So the quick lesson that I wrote about and gave you is that when we hear things like, I have adrenal burnout, I have adrenal fatigue, my adrenals have gone kaput, my adrenals are like this big, what that actually means, and this is why you'll get dismissed when you go to your doctor and say, I have adrenal fatigue, and they'll say like, that's not actually a thing, because medically it's not a thing. There is actually no diagnosis that is called adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout. There are autoimmune conditions called Cushing's disease, where you have an overproduction of cortisol from the adrenals. And there's Addison's disease, where you do not have enough. But if you don't fall into those categories, you just need an antidepressant. You just need a rest. You just need to sleep. It's something else that's going on. That's a lot of the time how women are treated, and they're dismissed when they go to the doctor and explain all the different symptoms. What's really happening is that this is an imbalance in an area in your body that's called the HPA axis, okay? Each of those letters stands for a different organ and gland in your body, and it all starts in your brain. So it's not in your head when you're perceiving, feeling a certain way or stress impacting you in a certain way. Your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axial connection is the hub of it all. So your hypothalamus and your pituitary glands, which are hugely important for your whole endocrine system. Like your pituitary gland is also where you secrete TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone. So when you ask your doctor for the blood work for your thyroid and they say, oh yeah, we'll run TSH, that's not a thyroid test. That does not come from your thyroid gland. It's coming from your pituitary gland in your brain that sends the message and the signal to the thyroid for it to now release the thyroid hormones. So it's a stimulating hormone. This is where you produce in your pituitary gland your follicular stimulating hormones to get the follicles on your ovaries ripe to support healthy ovulation. And then progesterone, your luteinizing hormone, plays a role in this as well too. So it's all happening up in our head from that hormonal perspective first. Hypothalamus gets all the messages from the outside world. Real stress, imagine stress, someone else's stress, someone else's deadline, someone else's struggle that you're supporting, your body feeling sick, environmental toxins coming at you, EMF, the news, noise, whatever it may be. Your body is constantly receiving it like you have antennas on your head, and now you have to filter all that through. And the hypothalamus, it's really in charge as a regulator of determining, like, do we need to respond to this stress? Is this just like Chicken Little? Can we ignore this and just kind of move on? And everybody's built a little differently in terms of what your threshold is to being able to manage that. Some people are stressed out by everything. Everything impacts them. They're always overwhelmed. They're always in a constant state of fight or flight and panic. And some people, they're just like, it's fine. Like nothing gets them, right? They're pretty even. We're not all like that. So this impact of that hypothalamic pituitary connection sends the message to your adrenals. And the message that's being sent to the adrenals is like, either we need you to produce more cortisol, or we need you to produce norepinephrine and epinephrine, adrenaline. We need more aldosterone, right? So this is like, it's this whole cascading system. So it's brain to adrenal connection. And then this is how those adrenals show up. The adrenals, I write about this in my book. I talk about it all the time. They're your SWAT team. They're not called in. They're not meant to be called in for every single 911 complaint that comes in. Okay, we have like other officers and other systems in our body that are meant to do that. SWAT is called in when shit has gone sideways and like the things are happening in a really negative thing. We got to react quickly. This is where now the adrenals, they jump in and they're like, do we need cortisol? Do you need it from the glands? Do we need to pull some from your muscles? Do we need to pull some from the liver? Do we need to increase how much insulin you're producing from your pancreas so that you can react quickly, you can run? this cortisol and the adrenaline, it rushes your brain so that you can think quickly and you can react. It rushes your skeletal system so that if you literally have to run, pivot, change direction, and get yourself out of a situation, you have all the available fuel and resources that is needed to do that. Okay. So this HPA axis system, it's not just responsible for the stress that you're feeling that I just described. And this can be good stress too. This can be your new job. This can be, the new baby that's coming. This could be the wedding. This could be the vacation. Your body doesn't understand the difference between, that kind of stress versus not so happy stress. Your body also doesn't understand the difference when you're watching something terrifying, when you're watching something scary at night, when you're witnessing something bad happen, and you're like, you can feel your heart rate increasing, your pupils are dilated, you might even sweat. Your body doesn't know that you're being entertained. Your body doesn't know that you're just watching a movie or a TV show. Your body's like, holy shit, this is actually happening to us. And your body starts to create these changes in your physiology. Okay, so this whole area of your body, this is what is supporting not only those responses, but your immune system. If your adrenals are taxed all the time and inappropriately, it is going to suppress immune function. You're going to get sick more often. When you do get sick, it's going to knock you on your ass. It is going to take longer for you to recover. Okay. Your HPA axis system, your adrenals, are also responsible in a massive way for supporting healthy digestion, being able to break your food down, pull the nutrients out of it, rinse, repeat again and again, your mood and your emotions. Okay. So it is involved in a ton. It's also going to be supporting and regulating a healthy menstrual cycle, your perimenopausal transition, the time from when the changes start to happen in your menstrual cycle until you go through the transition into actual menopause. The adrenals, this is the one that drives me so crazy for women, is that we should have been taught from as young an age as possible how important taking care of our nervous system, your adrenals, is in conjunction with your thyroid, because they're what are going to set the tone and the pace, the rhythm for your perimenopause experience. When your adrenals get the message from the ovaries, and the ovaries are like, it has been a slice. It's been an awesome past 40, 50 years of showing up for you like this, of, ovulating, releasing the egg, doing all of the things. I'm producing all your estradiol for you, but I'm going to take my final bow now. The adrenals get the message like, okay, the primary source of these hormones now is bowing out. It is now my time to step forward, because your adrenals are almost like your secondary ovarian system in terms of helping to continue to produce the hormones for cognition, your brain, your energy, your sleep, your libido, your mood, all of those things. And none of us are taught that. So we just plow our way through life. We're crushing our adrenals all the way through, from not enough sleep, too many things on the calendar, never being on our own priority list of self-care, taking on more than we actually can, and things we don't even want to. And then we get to a stage where hormonally everything becomes hyper and shifts, and it feels like the rug was just pulled out from underneath us, and we don't have the backup team. The SWAT team is no longer responding, because we've overworked it for our entire life and we've burned ourselves out. That's where the burnout symptoms come from. It's not a physiological thing happening in the chemistry of the adrenals most of the time. It is a result of all of the bits and pieces that have led us up to this point of where we were fine and now we're not. I was fine. And then this thing happened. I lost my job. This thing happened. Someone got sick. This thing happened. I had a baby. This thing happened. My relationship ended. This thing happened. We moved. This thing happened. 20. And now I'm not the same. So it's like all the writing is on the wall. We've been building and building and building up to that point. And then it is the old saying of it's the final straw that breaks the camel's back. So your resiliency meter, your ability to have the strength internally in all these different areas and systems of your life, there is not a single system in your body that is not also dependent on what is happening in your adrenal glands. You have two of them. They sit on top of your kidneys. They are also responsible for your blood pressure. They help with your heart rate, with your electrolyte balance, sodium, potassium, magnesium, all your minerals. They govern your ovaries. They govern men's gonads, their testicle. They are huge. So massive players in our body completely underappreciated, and we are completely undereducated on them. Okay. So it's really important. And, one of the things that I struggle with sometimes, especially like in teaching something like the Hormone Project, is every woman assumes one of two things. I either have way too much cortisol, give me a supplement so we can just like tell the cortisol to just back off and lower it down, or I have no cortisol, give me something that's going to give me the energy and give me the cortisol. It's not black and white like that. And that's why the testing piece, and I was asking you, is so important, because number one, testing cortisol in blood, I don't recommend it. It's not accurate. You have to test cortisol over a 24-hour period of time. And there's only 3 ways to do that. Really, it's like 2.5 ways. The first is you could do it through saliva. The most common lab in North America is Rocky Mountain Analysis. If you've worked with a naturopath, that's probably one of the ones they've used. And you have to spit in a vial at 4 or 5 different times throughout the day, because cortisol is diurnal. It is also very much ingrained with our circadian rhythm. And as women, we have an infradian rhythm with our hormones as well, too. So we need to take it at certain times of the day to measure, is she rising when she needs to? Does her body start the slow decline like it's supposed to? And then a leveling off coming into the evening. What's happening with her cortisol while she's sleeping? We find out so much about what's going on in your body, getting it at the different points. So that's the saliva. What I really like is using urine. If you were to ask your doctor for this, and maybe you've done this before, they would give you like a jug where you have to collect your urine over a 24-hour period, and then they do weighted averages of what your cortisol is in that time. Or they would give you 4 or 5 different cups, and you have to pee in those cups at those different times, take it back to the lab, and they test it. What we use is something called a Dutch test, and it's an acronym. It's not Dutch, it's not European. It's from Portland. And it stands for Dried Urinary Test for Comprehensive Hormones. And you get little filter strips and you pee on this at different times of the day. And I'm going to show you a couple different test results of someone who, like, it would make sense why they feel like they have adrenal burnout, someone whose cortisol is through the roof, where we kind of want to see things at. And I'm going to show you what happens in our body as we're trying to break these hormones down and use them. Now, what's really important to understand when I was talking to you about how your pituitary gland is where you're producing TSH, your thyroid stimulating hormone, is that this is really important, because that signal is what actually talks to the thyroid gland and gives it the opportunity to then produce free T4, okay, which is a thyroid hormone, and it's going to produce some free T3. What happens then at that point, or what should happen in a healthy functioning body, is your thyroid shuttles majority of that T4 that it has made down into the liver and some to the gut. And it's up to the liver and the gut to now convert more of that free T4 into free T3, because that free T3 is the metabolically active form of your thyroid hormone. That's what almost every cell in your body that has a receptor, it's like a lock and key mechanism. Every cell in your body is like, where's the free T3? This is what controls your metabolism, your body temperature, your hair growth, your nail growth, your motility of your gut. So regular poops, supports your sleep, your mood, your blood sugar, everything. If you don't have enough of that metabolically active free T3, your TSH could be totally normal in lab range. You could be producing the T4, but if no one's testing your free T3 and you're the woman who goes in and is like, I have every friggin' symptom of an underactive thyroid. I'm tired. I can't lose weight. I'm cold. I'm constipated. I'm losing hair. I'm losing the outer third of my eyebrow. My skin is dry. My vagina's dry. I have no libido. I'm not sleeping. You have all the symptoms. And all they tested your TSH, maybe your free T4, it's not enough. We need to know what's happening in the cells. There's actually something called cellular hypothyroidism. And what that means is when we do the full thyroid panel testing, we can see inside the cell activity. Are you producing? Are you converting? Is your body uptaking and using? That is not what TSH's job is. Your TSH could be normal for years, while you have these suboptimal levels behind the scenes in your cells. And if no one is testing them, you are going to be the woman that constantly gets dismissed and probably recommended an antidepressant or gets put prematurely on thyroid medication. The other factors of that, and again, when we get deeper into the thyroid section, and I'm going to talk to you about the blood work, is testing antibodies and other things. And that would be the difference for some of you who wrote in with the questions of like, do I have Hashimoto's? Do I have an underactive thyroid? There's also Graves, which is hyperactive. It's the least common of the three. But just kind of pin that in your mind as we go a little bit deeper for when we get down to that thyroid area. So as I was saying to you, you have your HPA axis. You also have a couple of axes, but the other ones we're going to talk about today is your HPT axis. So that's the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid connection. That's like what I was just talking about. And then you have your HPO, which is your hypothalamic pituitary, really adrenal ovary connection. So when women have problems with their menstrual cycles, with their period, with fertility, with miscarriage, with fibroids, with cyst, all these different changes that are happening, you don't just go straight to the ovaries. You have to go upstream because the ovaries are like fourth in line to get the message. What's happening in the ovaries is the end result of the signaling from the brain moving through all these systems to get all the way down there. So when we're supporting women for their ovarian health inside the Hormone Project, we're working on that HPA connection first. So if you're somebody that's been told you have estrogen dominant conditions, you have PCOS, you have infertility, you have different things that are happening and going on, we don't just go straight to the ovaries. We have to go back upstream. What's happening with her adrenals? What is happening with her thyroid health? Where else is there inflammation? What's going on in your gut? And we need to test appropriately and properly so that we can start to give the right suggestions. Otherwise, you end up being someone that just has a million supplements or medication or things in your home. You still don't understand why you've ever been recommended to take any of these things. And I think the other thing as well, too, is that these things do not change fast. This isn't a 12-week journey. This isn't like, I can't even say to women, yep, like within 4 months, this is going to be completely fixed. Yeah. And there's so many reasons why that's not possible. Number one, that entire journey of this connection from your HPA axis and your adrenals to your ovaries, that's a 90 to 100-day journey that's happening. It takes a full season for the expression of your ovaries to actually change. So if you're the type of person where you start taking supplements or you start changing your diet, you try to get it better earlier, but like 3 weeks later, you're not feeling any different. And then you're just, oh, screw it. Here's another thing I've tried and it didn't work. You needed a minimum of 100 days. 100 days. This is again where we're doing a massive disservice to the lack of wrong education to women. We get monthly subscriptions to magazine and then we think we can have like a monthly subscription to our health. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So we need to be working on supporting that connection. Someone's at the door. The mail lady, always this time of day. Having that connection in the brain and making sure that we are doing the things like supporting your blood sugar, supporting proper rest, making sure you are eating enough, getting the right combination of food for your body, supporting your mood, your motivation, your metabolic function, all of those things. Okay. So it is huge when we're talking about where you have to start first. And when it comes to thyroid health, almost every single thyroid illness was preceded by adrenal issues that either were ignored, not understood. You're just a woman and a mom and you have a job and you're just going to be tired. Like that's just kind of our rite of passage. Or you've been told that you had something else going on, or someone just didn't test appropriately and missed different things. Okay. So it's really, really important to understand you need to write down for yourself, truly, what are your symptoms? All the ones that you cast aside and think aren't important, all of the ones that have been dismissed for you, what are your symptoms? Write it down for yourself so you actually understand the true picture of what you're looking at. Then from there, you have got to ask yourself certain key lifestyle things like, am I eating often enough? A lot of women right now massively abusing intermittent fasting and time restricted eating, shortening the window of eating, cutting out all of their carbs. So you're dieting in a short window. You will blow your adrenals out of the water in a really bad way for this. You will lower your thyroid vibration. and this is like not to say like, listen, I practice a form of intermittent fasting, but I never recommend for women to be doing a 16/8. And I work with a lot of women with insulin resistance and diabetes and PCOS and things like that. You have to be very careful with your approaches, even keto and those types of things. There's benefits to all these approaches, but they should be monitored and used in a way where they're therapeutically incorporated into your lifestyle and your body for a period of time as you figure out the hum and the rhythm of what your system responds to. And the other thing, ladies, is you are cyclical. What worked for you once probably won't work for you again. What worked for you in one season may need a little bit of tweaking moving into the next season. Okay. So don't get yourself so dogmatic and rigid to it needs to be one way and look like this all the time. You are never the same as a woman hormonally day to day, week to week, or month to month. So you can't put all these rules around you and slide yourself into the box of the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so just get a little bit more curious about what it is that your body needs and how it responds to some of the changes that you are making. I want to talk to you about one thing here, and then I'm going to open it up for a couple of questions, and then I'm going to show you a couple of different test results. There's something that's called your cortisol awakening response, where when you wake in the morning, you should wake up, and within about 30 minutes to no more than 2 hours, your cortisol should double. It should go to its highest amount, which what this would feel like in your body is like, you might wake up and you're not jumping out of bed, but you're like, okay, all right, like I gotta get myself up. Once you get up and you get going, then you're like, I'm good. Like once I'm out of bed, I'm into my routine, I'm good. My morning feels great. I actually have a pretty good level of energy in the morning. And then you'll notice there's a little bit of a decline coming into the afternoon, typically between 1 and 4. And if your blood sugar is not stable, this is when you're going to look for something sweet. It's when you're going to look for another coffee. This is when you're going to look for a cigarette. This is when you're going to look for chocolate. This is when you're going to look for a couch to lie on. If that's happening, that's sign number 1. You have to get in front of that and stabilize that blood sugar. You have to hydrate your body, probably something going on with your minerals as well too. Your energy coming into the evening, you shouldn't be wanting to party. If you're feeling like you get this massive second wind coming into the nighttime, you're like Wonder Woman running around the house, and you could just stay up until all hours, and you've got the TV on, and you've got, your wine is flowing, and you're getting all your stuff done, laundry, lunch is made, all of that. And then you lie in bed and you are wired, but you're physically exhausted. Like your body is so flipping tired, but you cannot fall asleep. That's not okay. If you fall asleep before you even hit the pillow, like your latency, your time to fall asleep is less than 5 minutes, also not a healthy sign of adrenal function. If it takes you less than 5 minutes to fall asleep, that's actually a red flag. If it takes you less than 5 minutes to fall asleep and you don't stay asleep, then you're waking often throughout the night between 1 and 3, 1 and 4. You have to get up and pee, which typically that's not it. We just think we have to. And you're battling to get back to sleep, and it takes you hours to fall back asleep. And when you go back to sleep, those couple hours you finally get are like your best sleep until the alarm goes off. Red flag as well. You wake every hour on the hour, red flag. These are things that you really need to start to pay attention to, because when you do go and work with someone, this is like data you're collecting, it's information. And that is going to help us understand more of how we need to support what it is that's going on in your body. Now, in the workbook that you get, I've broken it down. Like there's over 200 different symptoms that come with adrenal and thyroid issues, but I've broken it down into kind of 12 categories, and I'll go through it kind of quickly here. And then when you have your notes, you can go through it a little bit slower. Difficulty getting up in the morning is one of them. And then those nighttime sleep patterns that I talked about. Your cravings increasing. And typically with adrenals, you're going to go for salt first. You want chips, you want popcorn, you want, salted nuts, and sometimes sugar, but usually when it's like big adrenal stuff, it's going to be salt first. If there's no salt, you'll find chocolate. Or maybe it's like you want to do a combo. You want like a salt and sweet tea. Then that would be something to pay attention to. When it's more thyroid and blood sugar, you just want something sweet all the time. Like a meal doesn't feel complete to you unless you've capped it off with a little piece of chocolate, a little cookie, a little something. Okay, so again, pay attention to those. If you don't eat every 3 to 4 hours, you get a headache, you get shaky, you get nauseous, you get cranky, you feel like you're living in a fishbowl. Also, red flag you want to pay attention to. Those are some early hyperinsulinemia responses, low blood sugar. Please pay attention. This is massive. You have digestive upset and indigestion a lot. Another red flag. Remember, the adrenals and the thyroid, they're connected to our digestion as well, too. When you have low functioning adrenals, low functioning thyroid, they low and slow everything down. Temperature, hair growth, energy, mood, digestion, all of it. Okay. If you have poor elimination pathways, you are not pooping on a daily basis and you're not pooping a healthy amount. You don't feel like you have a full void, or it's very mucky and you have to use a lot of toilet paper, right? I always say like a hand mitt to wipe yourself. It's like a mud pie. You have pellets that are coming out. This is not normal. These are all signs and indications that not only do we need to be supporting what's going on with the nervous system, but your gut, liver, gallbladder. Gallbladder and liver connection for women is massive on this journey of adrenal thyroid health, because your liver is where you're metabolizing all of your hormones. It's your phase 1 detoxification. It's what the body has to do to filter and break down. And your liver is where you produce the bile, but the gallbladder is what is regulating. So they're in a relationship together. So for women who don't have a gallbladder anymore, they will typically have a lot more symptoms and are more prone to having thyroid issues because of the mechanism that changes in their body. Women without a gallbladder, they become mineral deficient within a few years. They're typically not told they need a digestive enzyme containing bile and pancreatin and oftentimes HCl. They're not told they need to be supporting with minerals. They're like not told anything. Like your gallbladder, just, it doesn't matter that you don't have it anymore. Totally not true. And I'll see it show up in women in other ways years down the road. Weight gain is another one to pay attention to for your adrenals and your thyroid. Also weight loss. So I had adrenal issues a few years ago, and my pattern was not to gain weight. I couldn't put the weight on. And that was happening for a different reason. And just also be very careful of languaging with other women, because I remember when I was going through that, and I've supported other clients on this, and women around them be like, oh, boo fucking who, like you can't actually gain weight. The same way it feels for you when someone's talking about the inability to lose the weight, the person who can't gain weight is also having those same feelings and emotions. So just be very aware of your reaction to what other people are going through and your wording as well. We talked about this number 7 common symptom. You're susceptible to illness. You always feel run down. You always feel like you're getting something. The 8th sign with the adrenals is you have autoimmune conditions. You have psoriasis, you have arthritis, you have hives, you have a thyroid issue, you have Hashimoto's, which is the autoimmune form of a thyroid issue. You have different things that are going on in your body that are all going to come back to being connected to the adrenals as well. Any hormonal imbalance is connected to adrenals as well too. So whether it's excess estrogen, not enough progesterone, which the two typically live together, excess androgens, not enough androgens, weak or short cycles, irregular cycles, painful cycles, fertility issues, exacerbated menopause, all of those are going to be connected to what's going on with your adrenal health. If you have mood swings, anxiety, depression, you have an inability to adapt to stress. Your fuse is so friggin' short. And with the people you love, like you just fly off the handle. You're really easily irritated. Again, coming back to your nervous system and to your adrenals, and also your gut, especially with anxiety and depression. The cascading hormones that are being produced in the adrenals in response to that stress, massive, but you produce more than 90% of your neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine and tryptophan, which calm you down in your gut. So when you're told it's all up here, and this is what frustrates me is that, and listen, again, sometimes medication is what's needed, but when women are going in with all these symptoms I'm talking about, and they're being dismissed and put on a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, an SSRI, or an antidepressant, without asking her bigger questions, spending more than 7 minutes with her, referring her to someone else who has more time. And this is the problem with the healthcare system. It's not a healthcare system. It's a sick care system, and it's designed that way on purpose. And so if all you're prepared to do is go to the specialists and the people that are covered in your benefits, you're probably going to struggle for a long time. You're going to have to be willing to pay out of pocket for functional health that you actually need in terms of health. That is just, it's just the way that it is. It's no different than like, if I want your support in your career, the government doesn't reimburse me for that. I need to come to you for your expertise and invest in that. And we understand it in that way. If I need your help with real estate, I need your help with banking, I need your help with computer, I need your help with designing my home, with graphic design, whatever your incredible skill set is, I come to you, I pay you for that service. But what we've been taught is that healthcare should be free. So that means that anybody that's offering any level of support in healthcare, that we shouldn't have to pay for that. That's someone else's career and job. We've just been taught it in a very backwards way, and it's created a bottleneck in everyone's health. Okay. The other thing I need you to pay attention to with your adrenals and thyroid is, have your memory declined, your focus, and your cognitive ability? Do you feel scattered? Do you have brain fog all the time? Do you feel like you can't concentrate? Do you feel like you're really lacking clarity? Things you used to know off the tip of the finger and tip of the tongue, you have to spend a lot of time searching for now. And do you get dizzy and lightheaded? Do you get dizzy if you stand up too quickly? If you do things like yoga and you do a forward fold and stand up, are you dizzy and lightheaded? Those are some of your biggest symptoms that you really want to be paying attention to. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to kind of pause there for a second, come back into some Q&A. I get trapped by doctors and then you need them, dizziness and lots of headaches. So again, these are things that you need to be paying attention to. If your TSH is 0.2 or lower and everything else is normal. So Jessica, that would indicate hyperactive. So TSH, we want to see that. So that is between, we're looking like if you're in Canada. Okay, in the US, it's a little bit different. It depends on the lab that you use. But what we're looking at is that we want it to be generally between 1 and 2. Medically, they're going to say anything that is around 0.35 or up to 4.5 or 5 is totally fine. Normal and optimal are not the same thing. Functionally, what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify and catch you in these ranges when things are starting to show, like the hand going up the yellow light, like I'm okay, but pay attention. 0.2 is too low. What that means is that your thyroid or your pituitary is actually secreting too much TSH. When TSH is low, it actually means things are moving high, hyper. When TSH goes higher, like 7, 9, 12, that means the thyroid is slowing down. Okay. The signaling mechanism, the body's not responding. So for me, TSH 0.2 is too low. And if everything else is normal in the full panel, I would be running other tests. I would be running a Dutch test, and I'd be looking at what's going on with the gut for that. Okay, I'm going to talk to you now about some of the reasons as to why some of these things would happen in the body. Where to go? You have to go. So this is the biggest question. So the question is, what do you do if your doctor's dismissing you? Where do you go? You can try to find another doctor, or you can go work with a functional medicine team. You can go work with a functional medicine doctor. You can work with a naturopath. You can work with an FDN. You can work with a team like us where this is what we do and this is what we specialize in. You have to outsource it. Okay. What will test blood besides, who will test blood besides the family doctor? Nurse practitioner, naturopath, functional medicine practitioner. We order labs every single day for women. We use different labs all over the world. We use Rupa Health in the States, ZRT. We use In Common Labs in Canada. ZRT we can use here as well too, but you have to pay out of pocket for them. So what we always recommend is go to your doctor and get what they will give you, which is going to be the basic CBC, white blood cell count, red blood cell count, hemoglobin, probably your B12. Always ask for your vitamin D. You have to pay out of pocket for that. It's usually $30 or $40. They may test your hormones. Oftentimes they'll tell you, why would we test those? They're always changing. And they'll typically do your TSH for you. I always recommend getting your fasting blood glucose tested. And we have a whole blood sheet that we'll send you with the recording. So you have all the things that I recommend that you ask for. Okay. Weight goes up in the fall, usually down in the spring. Happening since menopause. Interesting, your seasonal shifts, Savannah, for that. I would start to just kind of notice what some of your habits are around that. And if there's things lifestyle wise that you're doing that would maybe be contributing to that. I can jump 0.7 to over 2.4. Can a jump from 0.7 to over 2.4 be an issue? It would show, Christine, that it's starting to get sluggish. It's starting to get a little tired. And that is, again, that's just it's the hand, right? Like I'm doing okay right now, but I'm getting a little sluggish. And then the question is why? Why isn't the thyroid gland responding the same way, which is causing, your body to produce more of that TSH? And then it's looking at some of the other factors. What's happening with free T4? What's happening with free T3? Are antibodies going up? What's happening with the adrenals? If you're under a significant amount of stress, that is enough to change the mechanism of that pituitary gland producing too little or too much of the thyroid stimulating hormone. It's enough for the conversation and your cell's ability to actually uptake and utilize the hormone to change. It's enough for your liver and your gut to not be able to play its role in this entire system. So stress is a massive one. 100% symptoms will change after menopause in terms of like, obviously any of the things I talked about with your period, you don't have that period anymore. Typically after menopause, it's going to be, I'm not sleeping, I'm gaining weight, my cravings are through the roof, all the old tricks I used to try aren't working anymore. My skin's dry, my hair is dry, vaginal dryness, no libido, those types of things. I can go 5 to 11 and back. Is it starting to die off? I don't understand what that means. No gallbladder, and of course not told what I should do. Liver is struggling, I'm assuming. Yeah, liver would be struggling if you haven't had a gallbladder. So you need a digestive enzyme. That's your first step, but also working with someone. You need somebody who can sit down and take like that whole timeline and health history, because you saying I don't have a gallbladder, well, okay, what are your symptoms? Gas, bloating, reflux, you need someone to sit. This is again, like we want to find it for free, like in the webinar, in the podcast, and I have all that. There's over 200 episodes in the podcast. There's loads of people online every single day offering the recommendations. But if you're trying to blindfolded and just randomly shoot in the dark based on a bunch of different information, just spend the time, getting proper testing, B, talking to someone where they can ask you the right questions and then give you those steps. But 100% without a gallbladder, you need to start with using a digestive enzyme that contains bile and pancreatin. TSH is 0.43. Doctor likes keeping me in the higher spectrum so I have more energy. And if you enjoy that as well too, and you are feeling good and you are on medication and you're working with your doctor on that, Vanessa, then stay in that range. That's what's working for you then. TSH of 5 to 11 is too high, meaning that your thyroid is struggling, and that is actually moving you towards hypothyroidism. Okay. Okay, I'm going to talk about some of the reasons as to why this can be happening, and then we're going to go a little deeper, because I always get asked like, why would this happen? So stress, I talked about that. A stressful situation, trauma, financial stress, a relationship stress, illness, inflammation, a gut infection, H. pylori, parasites. I went on this trip once and I got sick and I've never been the same since. I got the stomach flu once. I've never been the same since. I got food poisoning. I've never been the same since. Long-term use of medication, the birth control pill, pregnancy and postpartum. Pregnancy and postpartum will knock so many women's body into this adrenal dysfunction and into a thyroid situation. And a lot of the time that happens because these women weren't actually doing fantastic before the pregnancy. And then when you give birth, there is a massive hormonal shift that happens. You're not getting sleep. Your whole world becomes taking care of this other little one. You're really doing a lot of self-sacrifice. You're probably deficient now in some nutrients, some vitamins and minerals. You have no rhythm because your cycle is all over the place, because that's the baby schedule and cycle. You're probably not menstruating again yet. There's a lot of different reasons as to why that can happen, but pregnancy and postpartum is a massive period of time that can lead towards thyroid issues for sure. Lack of sleep and self-care in general, abusing fasting, like we talked about, no carbohydrates. That's another big one. Excess exercise. High intensity, too much all the time, no boundaries. Do you have any boundaries for yourself that you set energetically so that you have time and space to take care of you and saying yes to everything and everyone? So in your workbook that you get, I kind of break it down as to like, what are the tiers of this would be kind of base camp where most of us function at. And then what would be kind of like stage 1 of adrenal burnout, stage 2, stage 3. And remember that I'm using that word burnout very loosely because really what's happening is there is an imbalance with your HPA axis. So it's really important again to know this information. And listen, when you go to your doctor, like I don't go to my family doctor often. I go for a pap smear every 3 years, and I'll maybe go once a year to get my blood work there. Now I just pay out of pocket for most of it. But the amount of times where my doctor has sat and literally Googled on a computer in front of me when I have asked her a question. Like I've asked her stuff about the HPA axis, and she literally looked at me like this, had no idea what that was. Absolutely no idea. Be very careful. And some of you have amazing doctors, and that's great. Never let them retire. But be very careful. If you walk out of that appointment and in your gut, you're like, no, there's still something going on. You have to dig deeper. Okay, you have to dig deeper. Now, when we're talking about the symptoms with your thyroid, everything that I mentioned with the adrenals is probably going to be part of that. But you'll notice with the thyroid, your fatigue and exhaustion is a little bit more palpable. You're losing hair. That dry skin is getting worse for you. And like not just on your skin, like throughout your body. Sluggish digestion and bowels. So like it takes you a long time, you feel like, to break down your food. You never feel like you have that full void. You probably have to take something to have a bowel movement. Your body temperature is pretty low. That weight is slowly starting to creep on. And when it does, it's typically sitting around the waist, kind of around your bra strap area, upper arms, tricep. You'll start to feel puffiness in through your face. The other thing to note in blood work, when your thyroid starts to go out of whack, is oftentimes you'll see cholesterol starts to increase. Cholesterol levels will start to increase. And that is because, and whenever I see high cholesterol, I always look to the blood glucose. What's the fasting blood glucose? What's the HbA1c? Sometimes I will have clients use a continuous glucose monitor for 2 weeks, which you can buy at the pharmacy. In Canada. In the US, you actually need a prescription. How you can circumvent that in the US is there's a company called NutriSense, and they actually will drop ship you the continuous glucose monitor when you pay for it. But you wear this for 2 weeks. In Canada, you can buy a Freestyle Libre. And the data it gives you about your blood sugar will blow your mind. So many of you, like I'm doing this again next week on Tuesday. I do it like once a season, just out of curiosity of how my body is doing. And I do this for a living. I eat pretty good. I'm doing like all the surface things, but you don't realize how what you're feeling and other things your body is going through, and the hormonal changes, the way that that can shift your blood sugar. And if you have elevated blood sugar, you're going to have elevated triglycerides and cholesterol. Your blood is going to get stickier. You're going to start to accumulate more of the negative cholesterol versus the positive cholesterol in your body. And so I almost always see that where there's thyroid issues as well. Depression and anxiety are big ones with thyroid. That cognitive decline that I talked about, the sleep, heart palpitations. If you're noticing that you're getting a fluttering, you feel like you're having an anxiety attack, you've got the heart palpitations, this oftentimes will happen with the thyroid, because your thyroid plays a critical role with heart regulation and your circulatory and cardiovascular system. This is why for some people you need to be on that thyroid medication, because all of the above and so much more, you can't live without your thyroid. It is that important of a gland. You can't live without it unless you're on medication for the rest of your life. With there's thyroid issues, you also have an increased risk of miscarriage, of preterm labor. So these are also things to pay attention to, just when you're kind of noting what's going on. So let's talk about, and then I'm going to pull up some of these results to show you some indications that kind of make me ask more questions. But that blood work piece there with the thyroid, it's the TSH we want to have, free T4, free T3. I love reverse T3 if it can get tested, because that will bind up a lot of your free T3, and it will penetrate the relationship between the active metabolic form of your thyroid hormone trying to get into your cells. So if we see that reverse T3 is high, it's another sign of inflammation. And then the thyroid antibodies, which is your thyroid peroxidase and your TGAB, your thyroid antiglobulin. And if those are elevated, that's now telling us that you don't just have like lifestyle-based underactive thyroid issues, your immune system has now been called into this. And if you have Hashimoto's, your body starts to get confused. And now your immune system isn't going in and just attacking foreign invaders that shouldn't be there. Your immune system and these two antibodies specifically are attacking your healthy thyroid tissue. And that's a whole nother ball game. We don't treat it in the exact same way that we do with an underactive thyroid. There's a few other things we need to do, gut being a big part of it. Okay, so I am going to, hold on here, let me, my DHT blood level is off the chart. So DHT is actually the aromatized form of testosterone. So your adrenals are producing some of your hormones, your ovaries are producing testosterone. You can aromatase testosterone into more estrogen. But when you have, or if you have elevated DHEA, elevated testosterone, and then you metabolize, you break down those hormones down what's called a 5-alpha pathway. That is inflammatory, and it converts more of that testosterone into something called DHT. So you may have symptoms of PCOS, of hair loss, of acne, of oily skin, mood-wise, like definitely feeling like more aggressive, shorter fuse, those types of things. And those are just kind of some of the symptoms. I don't know what your whole issue is that's going on. But we also measure and see that in Dutch. So in blood, you're seeing that. I would cross-correlate in a Dutch test and actually note, are you moving things down a 5-beta pathway or a 5-alpha pathway? Dark circles under your eyes can definitely be a part of it as well too. Went to a naturopath. Both of those are good products, but I can't tell you to take those or why you should take those. You need to go back and ask her, but both of them are great products and good companies, okay? Okay, so let me look up here. Hold on, let me just pull up here. Let me pull this up, minimize, and then I'm going to share my screen with you all. Okay, can you all see this? Okay, now I'm going to zoom in on this guy. Let me just come in and see if you're saying yes, you can see it. Okay, sweet. Okay, so where is my fun zoom on this? If I can, oh, hello, that's a lot more. Okay, let's get it to here. Okay, so this is one of the pages in the Dutch test. And so every woman that I work with and our coaches work with inside the Hormone Project, we have them do a full blood panel. We do a Dutch test, and oftentimes we'll do a GI map test. And so I want to show you this in here with this woman's results. Now, this is just the first page, the summary page that is helping us to understand the balance of her 3 sex hormones, her estrogen, her progesterone, and her testosterone. And then what's going on with her adrenals. Okay. So if you look down here with the adrenals, let me actually just collapse that over there. This down here, see where it shows this number 2358. And at the bottom, it says this is her total cortisol production. Okay. In between these yellow stars is where we have healthy ranges. So she is in a very low range here. Okay. Hold on one second. I'm just seeing Janice. I don't know if I can make it full page here. Let me go home. Let me see if we just hit play to do it and we go like this. There we go. There you go. Okay, so this is as big as it's going to get. So down here, we're looking at this 2358. So for this woman, and this woman came in to work with me, and she was actually doing okay, but was like, I'm starting to feel a little bit tired. I'm starting to have some hair loss. My sleep is not as good as what it used to be. I'm getting overwhelmed more than I used to be. She just had a little bit of, writing on the wall. Menstrual cycle was still regular. Would notice that they were getting a little bit shorter sometimes, like she was getting her period a little bit more often. Used to have a 27, 28 day cycle, was starting to kind of sit somewhere between the 24 to 26 day cycle. So down here, what this is showing us is that she has an insufficient amount of cortisol that her body is producing right now. Okay, still producing. She does not have adrenal burnout. Her adrenals are still producing cortisol, but probably not in the amount that she would feel her best in. So this is the total cortisol production. Now, over here where you see the 139, this is what's called your 24-hour free cortisol. So remember when I was saying to you that going to the doctor and getting them to test via your blood is a snapshot. It's one time, and it does not tell us enough. We need to see it over the 24-hour pattern. So this is this woman's cortisol bank. She's already in a deficit. Okay, she's already in the reds. And this is how much her body is budgeting throughout the day. Now, on the surface, it looks like, hey, she's not doing too bad. What I want to tell you here is when you see the pattern of the 24-hour cortisol arrow pointing towards the arrow of the total cortisol production, she has an issue with her thyroid, 100%. She is not producing a lot. What she is producing, she is having a little bit of sluggish clearance. She's holding on to it a little bit too long. Now, her pattern is healthy. So she is probably getting away with telling herself that she is doing better than what she actually is. This first dot over here, this is telling us her cortisol in the middle of the night. It's actually pretty good. It's pretty good in the night. She wakes up and has a nice, juicy cortisol awakening response. She has a pretty good decline. But look at here what happens in the evening. This is really high cortisol coming into the evening. So she is probably staying up later than what she should be. She is probably snacking at night, or she has eaten way too early, like 5 o'clock, and she's going to bed at 10 o'clock. So she's fasting for 5 hours before she's going to bed and then fasting all night while she's sleeping, or she has a gut infection. So she's either staying up too late, watching TV, working on the computer, getting everything done, burning the candle at both ends. Her food is off, or she's got a gut infection. That's what we see in this one here. Okay. But because what I am seeing with these dials facing one another and how I am 100% making sure that she is going to be getting a full thyroid panel, I want to know what's going on with her blood sugar, mineral deficiencies, talk to her openly and honestly about her stress and gut issues. Okay. So that is one example. Now, this is the same woman here, and this is something that I note. So on this, what you'll notice, and again, this is small and it has to be because I'm showing you the full gamut. I'm going to explain to you what's going on in some of these areas. If this was purely an adrenal issue for this woman, we would have seen that the total cortisol production and her free cortisol both moving towards the left, both tanking, and she would have very little DHEA. For this woman, she is in her mid 40s. I like to see DHEA around 300. She's sitting at 228. That is not too bad, especially what's going on with her cortisol production. So this is not purely an adrenal issue for this woman. We want to dig deeper into her thyroid. And she's not moving things down this 5-alpha inflammatory pathway, which is what impacts the DHT levels. She is ovulating, although this wasn't a very strong pulse that month, but she is ovulating. Estrogen, her estradiol from her ovaries, it is sitting a little bit on the higher end. And then these are detox pathways that we look at. But the primary reason I wanted to show you this here is that this is not purely just an adrenal issue for this woman. So I am not going to go and give this woman things like ginseng and licorice root and a whole bunch of stimulating cortisol things right out of the gates. I'm going to be working on supporting her blood sugar and her thyroid first, and the adrenals would be kind of a secondary addition to that. So this is really important to note and understand, and why the testing is important as well too. Now, the other reason I want to show you this, look at how high her melatonin is. When you see melatonin this high, she is 100% supplementing. I like to see it around 60 to 70. Hers is 2,700. This does not happen just naturally by itself. Melatonin is primarily produced in the gut. If you didn't run this test and you thought, oh, she's having kind of interrupted sleep, she says she's not as restful as normal, and you go and give this woman more melatonin, it's probably going to keep her awake at night, or she's going to wake up feeling hung over. So again, another reason why we ask more questions and we do more testing. The next one here I want to show you, this is a totally different woman. Okay. Her estrogen and progesterone, not doing well at all. She is in the postmenopausal range here. Okay. Now this woman is actually not postmenopausal. That's what's concerning about her hormone levels. She is perimenopausal, but her estrogen and progesterone levels, like any day now, her period is going to stop completely. And the state that her adrenals are in, she is not going to do very well moving into menopause, because if you look down here, her DHEA production, extremely low. Her total cortisol production, extremely low. Her free cortisol, extremely low. So as much cortisol is coming in, she is clearing it on out. Look at her pattern over here. So this red line is hers. We want to see a healthy range where the red line is following in between the upper and the bottom lines here. She is not just hugging the bottom, she is below it. This is a prime example of someone who is literally dragging themselves through their day and surviving and 100% not thriving. This is an inflammatory illness waiting to happen. This is thyroid disease waiting to happen. And depending on what else would be going on in this woman's detoxification pathways, this is not a good situation. This woman needs adrenal support, thyroid support, and most likely some bioidentical hormone therapy as well too. And she probably really needs someone to talk to, because depending on how long she has been feeling like this, and this has been her pattern, she is probably holding on by a thread. Okay, let me come back in here. So Debbie, what you're looking at right here, this would look like it is postmenopausal. This is typically what you would see when someone is postmenopausal. This woman is 48, whose test we're looking at. Lisa, if the melatonin is very low, we want to look at, let me go back. We want to look at what is going on with gut health as well. Most melatonin is produced in the lining of the gut. The residual amount of the melatonin is produced in the pineal gland behind the eye, which is why sleeping with absolutely no light, using an eye mask, things not plugged in around you, getting to bed at a good time is so important for balancing that out. But yeah, Debbie, this is typically what you would see hormonally for a woman that is postmenopausal, which this woman is not, but this is typically what it is that you would see. Now, hold on, let me go into the next one here. This is a really good example of fairly good adrenal function, but hormones that are in the pooper. So this woman here, her hormones, so between the yellow star and the purple, this is a perimenopausal range of what's going on. We can see she did not ovulate. And is most likely not ovulating at all based on where her estrogen is in that. Now, this is what's interesting. This is a 51-year-old woman. Okay, this is a 51-year-old woman who has not had a menstrual cycle for 6 months now. So she is most definitely creeping closer to menopause, but her adrenals are doing amazing. Her adrenals, like, we want to see this dial at 12 o'clock. Her cortisol production is fantastic. Her usage is pretty good. She has a crash coming in the afternoon. Like, this is where you have to ask questions. So it's a little bit low when she wakes up, which the waking test is actually what's been happening while you've been sleeping overnight. So you want to ask questions like, what's your sleep environment? You know, are you hot when you're sleeping? What's around you? Is someone snoring? Whatever it may be. She does skyrocket when she wakes. Like, she goes kind of pretty high. Now, she is a school teacher. So when she gets to school, it is go time. She has to get right into action. And so again, our lifestyle and our environment is going to impact the way that our hormones respond. You have to ask these questions. You can't just look at the test results and then give someone a supplement or protocol based on the results alone. You have to ask why. So morning time, she's good. And then she crashes coming into the afternoon. And this was her big thing. I need something sweet, or I need a nap. Like, I can't function and keep going. And so she, at the time of this test, was doing both. She was having another coffee in the afternoon, and she was having like a muffin or a cookie. And then she'd get a little bit of an upswing coming into the evening. But overall, her adrenal pattern was doing great. This woman, we would test, I would think about what's going on with her thyroid. I would look at gut. And again, the question of menopause. We need to stabilize her blood sugar to help her energy. I'd give her probably, I would actually, in this case, and knowing who the woman is, what I did start her on was some hormonal support, keeping it in the back of my mind that depending on her symptoms through menopause, possibly recommending her for bioidentical hormones, depending on how she was feeling. Okay, this one here, and this is the last one. Hello. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to pull it back to our main screen. This is another one. Now, this is a much younger woman. This is a woman that is 37 years old. Her estradiol, really nice and strong, okay, but her progesterone is not. So this woman has suffered 3 miscarriages. She has postmenopausal progesterone. She has a good amount of estradiol from her ovaries, but she is having a problem with her progesterone. So we want to support what's going on in the HPA axis, and we need to support her adrenals. She is producing a bountiful amount of cortisol. She is clearing it out really quickly. Why? What is the inflammation pattern that's going on in her body? And this is another one that is literally just getting by energetically. Okay. So it's so important when we're talking about, different tests and different things to understand what it is that we are actually looking at. Have you seen changes in blood work with clients who have had the vaccine, for example, fasting glucose and changes in cholesterol? I've seen changes in all the values when people have gotten the vaccine, any medications in general, but yes. Now, it also depends on the timing of when they had their shot to when they did the blood work, but there's been a ton of changes happening. Blood work, we've seen changes in Dutch, we've seen changes just in their symptoms, right, of how their body's presenting and what they're showing up with. for that. How do you address the high DHT? You have to work on what is overstimulating the androgens, right? So is it an insulin resistance issue? Is it a thyroid issue? Is it a stress issue? You have to dig deeper. And this is based on a consultation. You have to actually work with the woman and ask, tell me more about what your health history is leading up to this, right? And then supplement wise, sometimes people may use things like saw palmetto or sometimes DIM, but you have to be careful with DIM because if estrogen is not healthy and strong, you'll plummet her estrogen. Zinc, things to support the liver, nettle, those types of things can help with that. On here, borderline Hashimoto's. So there's no such thing. If your antibodies are elevated, which I like to see those antibodies well below 20 and 30, respectively for each of those. So you've got borderline Hashimoto's, menopause, and T1D equals hormonal shit show. Not necessarily. It's just about working with the right support to help you figure out what it is that you need to be doing to support your system. Both my 24-hour free and metabolized were off the charts in my Dutch. I was told that is okay. If they were off the charts high, no, that is not okay. What is happening? Okay, we answered that. Why, if total DH is high, 24 hours low? Great question, Candace. So the total DHEA is looking at the DHEA produced in your adrenals, your testosterone, and it's looking at your two metabolic pathways that move down either that 5A or that 5-beta pathway. So if you are moving things down a higher pathway, that is what can actually increase the total DHEA production. Okay, so again, this is why we have to look at all the bits and pieces. Now, in blood work, you can measure DHEA. What we're looking at in the Dutch is DHEAS, which is the sulfated form. So sometimes why might a body not sulfate? Could be certain genetic SNPs, could be inflammation, could be thyroid, could be gut infection. Those are almost always going to be the culprits that we want to be able to take a look back to. Is it a problem if Dutch E1, E2, low, very 3 high? No, that's not estrogen dominant at all. If E1 and E2 are low, then you have low estrogen. If E3 is high, you're having a difficult time detoxifying. So you've got to look at liver, gallbladder, gut, what's going on there. You're welcome. Okay, so I just want to close out this window here. So I'm not using up any extra bandwidth that is not necessary. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let's talk about some of the healing things. So we're 1:15. We're probably going to be going for at least another 20 minutes. Okay, with this is why I said I do not have a hard stop for this. This is a lot of information to try to deliver and to get to you, and in a way where you actually understand it. Okay, so those of you, if you're listening to this, is the audio recording. I can't do anything to illuminate for you what I was just showing you inside of the Dutch results. What you could do is just email us info@JenPike, and then you can get the actual webinar version of it where you can see some of those results. So here's what I need you to start to do for yourself. Number one, take a look at your lifestyle and your routine. Okay, our adrenals and our nervous system love routine. They thrive in it, but not in a rigid way. I just mean a routine like you generally wake up around the same time every day. You move your body every day. I didn't say exercise. And honestly, as a woman, when it comes to exercise, you really should be moving according to your own body, to the cyclical nature of your body, to either the phases of your menstrual cycle, or if you're menopausal or post, the phases of the moon. That is totally what synced is all about. That is honestly, truly the changes that I see in women's nervous system, the recalibration, their body. It's unparalleled to what we think we're supposed to be doing. So that is what I would recommend for your movement, is based on that. You need to start to prune and purge the things that don't matter anymore to you. You need to really go through and dry brush your calendar. What am I doing that I don't want to? Where am I leaking energy and wasting time? You need to start to become familiar with your body's whispers before it starts screaming at you. So all the things that you are dismissing, not just the practitioners you're working with or the doctors, that you are dismissing. I'm going to tell you something, doing this for over 2 decades now. A red flag for me is when a woman reaches out and says, I've gone to every doctor, every naturopath, tried every program, and no one was able to help me. I've spent all this money and no one could ever do anything for me. That's a red flag for me, because that to me is like, what role have you played in this? Have you actively participated? And actively participating for us as women, what we have to understand, it's not doing what we're told. It's not just taking the supplements and eating the meal plan. Are you doing the work of yourself? Are you really tapping into, like, why are you depleted? You can have thyroid issues and adrenal issues and still have energy. You can have a healthy thyroid and healthy adrenals and still feel like crap. So if you're not doing the work of recognizing, like, what is actually causing you the heaviness in your body? Why are you so tired? What are you thinking about at night when you can't go to sleep? These are a lot of the questions that we have to ask ourselves instead of putting all of the weight of our healing into the hands of someone else. Whoever you choose to work with, whatever you choose to take or to do, it's part of the journey. It's a catalyst. It's part of the stimulus, but it can't do the actual shift and change. And a lot of what we've been mistaught is that it's all about the things we take and the things we do. And I'm going to tell you, it has a whole lot more to how you're showing up and where you're being honest with yourself and how you're actually taking care of yourself as a woman on a daily basis, like your core needs, the way you want to feel. It's really, really important. Okay. Stabilize your blood sugar, ladies. This is so important. Protein, fat, and fiber at every single meal. Start to eat within a couple hours of waking at the latest. If you have adrenal thyroid issues, I would like you to eat within an hour of waking. Based on how you feel, typically every 3 to 4 hours. So you think like breakfast, lunch, an afternoon snack, I am a massive fan of, and then dinner. Okay. You have to get that blood sugar stable. If your blood sugar is not stable and you have cravings galore and you can't focus and you're on all over the place, you're pulling your adrenals all over the place. You're pulling your thyroid all over the place. You're pulling your weight all over the place. Work on stabilizing your blood sugar, protein, fat, and fiber at every single meal. And the macronutrient that women are always deficient in is not enough protein. Aim for a minimum of 90 to 100 grams a day. You have to prepare this, right? Or have like protein powders on hand, cook extra chicken, extra fish, extra beef, those types of things, but don't negate the importance of that protein. You need those amino acids for your adrenals. You need those amino acids for your thyroid. You need the vitamin A that's coming from those animal products of protein for all of this as well too. Work on your digestion. So if you have chronic gas and bloating, you are constipated, or everything goes through you, please start to work with somebody on managing this. You're going to end up with way more issues than just hair loss and fatigue if you have that many gut things going on. Invest the time and energy and work with someone to support your gut health. Work on eliminating the things that you know are triggering your system. So if you're like, every time I eat this, I know I'm going to pay for it, why are you still eating it? Okay. Incorporate all of the awesome foods in that maybe you haven't been eating. Look for lots of color. When it comes to your vegetables, I find for most women who have thyroid and adrenal issues, you need to roast them, cook them, saute them. Raw is probably going to be a bit too much for your body to digest and break down. Look at some of the bigger triggers that might be causing you inflammation, like dairy and gluten and soy and corn and sugar and alcohol and all the things that we innately know don't make us feel awesome when we have them. Okay. Get yourself to bed at a good time. 10 to 10:30 would be fantastic. I know everybody's schedule is a bit different. Do the nighttime routine. I have lots of information in my blog. I've done podcast episodes all about this as well too. Be very aware of your environment, not just that you're sleeping in, but in general. Like, is there a lot of synthetic scents around you? It's like, is it toxic chemicals or toxic people that are around you? Because they can impact you just the same. Paying attention to that. Increase your level of joy. What do you love to do? Someone asked me this the other week, like, what's your hobby? And I was like, oh, that's a great question, because for the last few months, I've not had hobbies. I've just been working, managing my family, moving my body, but that's not a hobby anymore. Like going for a walk and moving your body, like to me, I'm like, that's just like brushing my teeth. That's not a hobby. That's just like, fuel for my whole system. It's how I come home to my body. So what's the thing you love to do? Allow yourself to, re-explore what brings you massive joy and happiness. And then in terms of baseline supplements, now remember, I don't know you. I do not know your health history. I don't know any of the things about you. So I am going to talk to you in regards to general recommendations. A methylated B complex for you as a woman, probably something really important to consider. An emulsified vitamin D, not in a pill, not in a tablet, in a liquid form. Okay, D3, really important. A good quality omega-3, also very important. Probiotics important. Now, probiotics all depend on our own body. So if you've done different GI testing, like a GI map, and you've been told that you need to be on a single strain or a spore-based, do that. If you've never taken a probiotic, you could start on something that is like a really good quality multi-strain and get that in. You could use something like and this is not a probiotic, but a greens powder added into your smoothies. Juice Plus is something as well too you could bring in for more phytonutrients. Magnesium, magnesium, magnesium. Not 3 times the amount of it, but ladies, if you are not taking magnesium, you must. It is involved in over 800 different interactions in your body every single day. And it is the mineral we are most deficient in. Please take magnesium. I like a magnesium bisglycinate for absorption, 3-8 for those of you who have had any brain trauma or concussion. Magtein is a great company for that brand. The bisglycinate, I really love CanPrev. I love AOR. I like Designs for Health. And citrate is good if you're constipated. So using the natural calm citrate powder can be a good one if the bowels aren't moving. Now, I've included some different brand names in your actual worksheets that you'll have. Again, I don't know where you live, so if you're still struggling, you can reach out. Now let's talk adaptogens. Adaptogens are specific for your adrenals. So some of my favorite are going to be holy basil, okay, which is Tulsi, ashwagandha. I actually have my ashwagandha right here. I use the one from St. Francis. I love it. It is beautiful for the adrenals and for the thyroid. I really love rhodiola and reishi. Ginseng is good, and licorice if you don't have any issues of high blood pressure and you're not already functioning high anxiety. They're stimulating, so they're not good. There's combination blends that you can do as well. Like, and you'll hear words like adrenatone, adapt, stress. Those would be some good ones that you'd be moving towards as well too. But again, to get really specific on the adaptogens that you would need, you really would want to know, like, am I producing too much or too little cortisol? What is the way that my body needs to be supported? And then go from there. There's a large Purelator truck that's pulling into my driveway right now, but I really hope doesn't need my signature. She's going to bark again. I'm just going to move on. So adaptogens are really good because they're going to help your body adapt or respond to stress in your life that is happening by normalizing it. They're not going to fix the issue, but they are going to make it easy for you to be able to manage what's going on so you don't feel like you buckle at everything that is happening in life. Okay. Let me just see if I can. She's still barking in 2 minutes. I'm going to have to go answer that door, folks. Lion's mane and chaga are not, the turkey tail, all of that. The only one in there that's for the adrenals is the reishi. Okay. Ladies, I'm really sorry. Just let me pause for one moment because the Purelator truck is not driving away. Hold that thought, take a sip of water, and I will be right back. And they're gone. Just as I get up. Real life, right? So though, yeah, those ones like lion's mane, chaga, great for the immune system, great for the brain, not specific adaptogens. And here's the other thing. I love Four-Sigmatic. I love all of those things. Having a cup of that in a day is not going to be strong enough for the person who has a true adrenal issue. You are going to need to use something therapeutic, especially based on whatever it is that your results say. So here's what I want to say to you, because now we're coming up on 1:30. We're going to wind this down. Understanding what is going on in your body, that is like your baseline protection. It's understanding more about why these glands and these systems in our body matter so much, what the symptoms are that are correlated to them, why these types of things can happen, and then what we can actually start to do to support them. The support piece, it just requires a change in your mindset. It also requires you to really realize that you have to allow yourself to unlearn most of what you have thought to be true when it comes to your health. Because as so many of you have said, you go to a doctor and it all comes in the form of a pill, and you might feel better for a while and then you don't. You obviously don't because you're here. You're here still trying to learn and to listen because you're feeling like you're missing something, like there's a blind spot. Something is just not adding up in your body or how you are feeling. And how you start to correct that is you actually empower yourself with more knowledge and wisdom. And then when you get to the place where you've got the knowledge and you've got the wisdom, now this is when you are actually in a better qualified place to start to work with a practitioner to help you, to start to go and seek out an ND, a functional medicine doctor, a functional diagnostic nutritionist, a team. For me, when I am working with women and when our team of coaches are working with women in the Hormone Project, the dream client is the woman who is so sick of all the BS around it. And she already knows. She knows with certainty, this is how I'm feeling. These are my symptoms. This is what's been going on. We're never a woman's first stop. She's typically gone to umpteen people. The difference in the work that I do, the difference in coming into the Hormone Project is that I will oftentimes see and hear what it is you're not telling me. I teach the coaching calls every week in a way where I am just going to break it down on the realest of real levels with you. I'm going to tell you all the things I thought that you should have known from the beginning. I'm going to answer your questions openly and honestly. I'm going to help you get to the bottom of what it is that's going on. And it's also helping you to understand that this is a process, that if you have been feeling this way for years, you have been struggling for a long time, you need to really make the conscious decision that I'm going to invest the next X amount of time. Like I said to you today, I have no time cap on when this is going to end. You have to approach your health that way. Whenever anybody asks me, well, how long is this going to take? Do you know what my answer is? How long do you want to live? That's the journey of your health. You have to be willing to get up with that flame inside of you lit where you're committed to feeling good today and feeling good tomorrow. It's not about every day being better and better and better. It's like feeling good, and decide and define for yourself what feeling good feels for you. Is it getting a better night's sleep? Is it having less inflammation in your joints? Is it having less bloating? Is it looking at the partner that you love and having the energy to actually be intimate with them? Is it being able to get down on the floor and get back up without someone helping you? Is it getting through a whole workout? Is it losing the last 10 pounds? What is it for you that's going to make you feel like you've achieved that place of feeling better? Your adrenals and thyroid, the thing that they're interested in the most outside of having stable blood sugar is joy, is connection, is happiness. It's not rigidity. It's not rules. It's not a box. That actually breaks them down. So if your whole approach has been that, and you are white knuckling your way through your health and hormones as a woman, I am really going to invite you to change your approach. I'm really going to invite you to press pause and take a moment and just sit back and reflect and ask yourself about what your current approach has been, what your expectations have been on yourself and on others. And to sit down with these notes of the book that you have and just brain dump it out. What have you been feeling? How long has it been going on for? And are you ready for something different? This is my life's work. My life's work has been this. And I will tell you, sitting in circle and in community with women for decades now and not stopping anytime soon, it's so much more than what we believe it to be, and can actually take so much less than what we believe it to be. But it requires showing up and doing things like this. It requires allowing yourself to come into workshops and to learn. It requires potentially working with a team. And if that is something that you're struggling with, reach out to us, slide into my DMs on Instagram, book a call with one of our wellness advisors. It doesn't cost you anything. We talk to women every single day on our team and get on the phone. What are you struggling with? What are you going through? Are we the team that can even help you? Or do we refer you out to somebody else that can? You never know unless you ask, right? So if you are that person that's sitting on the fence and you've been thinking about the Hormone Project, or you've been thinking about Synced or whatever it may be, then reach out. Send us a message, info@jenpike.com. DM on Instagram, let us know, and you can book that wellness advisor call. And I would say, like, plug out for yourself like 30, 45 minutes so that you can have a real open, honest conversation about it. I don't work in one-to-one. Sienna, I don't do, so I have been on sabbatical I haven't booked one-to-one clients for years now. I only work with women inside the Hormone Project. And if it's not something you can afford now, then make it something that you can start to move towards. And we also offer payment options. So there's always a way to be able to work that out. But for me, I don't work with clients one-to-one. The only work I do is inside the Hormone Project for that. Yes. So if you are currently working with your doctor and that who's prescribed your thyroid medication, you need to go back to that doctor and talk about it. And I know it's frustrating when you feel like they're not listening. So then you can also look at, are there other practitioners and other doctors around you, and try to have that really frank conversation with your doctor. Your doctor is not trying to make you unhealthy or keep you stuck in this position where you're in on your medication. They have a lot of rules on top of them right now. There's a lot of that's been going on in the health system. There is a lot that is going to be, I think, happening even more. I think they're going to be clamping down even more on what you're going to have access to blood-wise in that. And so you just need to be more informed and know how to be able, in so many situations, to circumvent that system, because there's an entire virtual functional medicine system that is happening globally, worldwide, that you can opt into. And sometimes, what does it mean? You're going to have to save for things in that. Like, I have to do that in my life with lots of things that I look at and I would desire to have. And I'll save sometimes for a few years or a few months, depending on what it is. So again, it's just having the honest conversation with yourself. How is it determined who you work with inside the Hormone Project? So during your wellness advisor call, we have 3 different coaches that are in the Hormone Project, and everyone has a different area of specialty. And so depending on what it is that's going on with you and your health, we would help to match you up with the coach that is their area of specialty. And also personality wise, we feel like you would be a really good match and really good fit with. For that. And then you spend your Monday nights with me. I do all of your live coaching calls, and it's the best community. My THP ladies and my sync ladies are the best community. Okay, any other questions before we hop off? Thank you so much for staying with me. We've been jamming for 90 minutes now, which has been awesome. And like I said, and like we scratched the surface on a lot of this, I could seriously come back every single day for an entire week and break down another concept and teach you so much more. And don't get frustrated by that. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much to learn. You've come away with exactly what you need to know right now. Watch this again, read the information. Send questions. When you get the recording of this, don't hesitate to reach out via email, or like I said, slide into my Instagram DMs. Oftentimes I'll just reach back out with a voice response to you. Do you tend to see with ADD type symptoms? Okay, hold on. Do you see a trend with ADD type symptoms of women in perimenopause? Like attention deficit disorder? I can't say I've seen a trend with that. You are welcome, Debbie. You're welcome, Christine. You're welcome, Darlene. Castor oil. I wouldn't take it internally. Beautiful for your liver and gallbladder. Great for your hair. Great for your thyroid. So good to use on the outside of the body. One of my close friends, Dr. Marisol, the founder of Queen of Thrones. If you go to her page, tons of castor oil information. Thank you, Kelly. Awesome, Janice. Thanks, Candace. Thanks, Amy. Amazing. All right, ladies, have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye.